The Rugged Ridge Spartacus front bumper in satin black is for those of you that have a 2018 and up JL that are looking for a modular front bumper that's also going to give you a very different look than a lot of the other bumpers out there because of the way this thing is put together. This is going to be a pretty easy 1 out of 3 wrenches for the installation. It is going to bolt together. As you can see, there are a couple more parts than with most bumpers, but still very, very easy, very straightforward to get installed, and we're going to show you how to do it in just a second. So this is a bumper that is made from stamped steel, and what that means is it can have a very different design, a very different style than most of the other bumpers out there that are either bent on a brake or are individual pieces of plate steel that are welded together, and some of those edges are smoothed with a grinder. This is actually stamped out, so all of these compound curves that you're getting, all of the intricate design and detail along the bottom here, that's something that you really can't get from a plate steel bumper, only from something like this that's going to be stamped. This bumper is going to have a drastically different look than some of the other ones out there. It also takes a page out of the factory Rubicon front bumper on the JL's book in the fact that it is modular. So these ends here, these are going to be completely removable. So if you just want to take them off when you go off-roading, if you just want to leave them in the box, not install them at all because you like a shorter bumper look, whatever the case is, these are going to pop off for you, which is going to give you a little bit more clearance off-road, a little bit less stuff to bang up on the trail. Now, something else that makes this bumper unique is the fact that it has a couple of plastic parts built into it. Most steel bumpers are steel through and through. This has a couple of plastic shields on the outside here that these are just detail pieces here that do get bolted and snapped into place. And then these actually go in from the inside. I don't have the bumper assembled here on the table, but going from the inside. So this area right here is right here, that little plastic bump out, and then your fog light mount in here as well, so this will accept your factory fog lights. Even if you take the corners off, I know it can look a little bit strange, but even if you take the corners off, you will still have those factory fog lights mounted in your bumper, which is really nice. This has a spot for your factory tow hooks. It also has a winch mount built right into it, and as you can see, this also has a fairlead mount that's really down in the center of the bumper, and that's a look that I really like when they sink the winch down in the bumper a little bit, hide as much of the winch as possible. It gives a nice sleek look, in my opinion, so that is another really nice feature. So overall, this is going to be a good looking bumper, at least in my opinion, but because of the way it's manufactured, because it is multiple pieces, this is going to be a little bit more expensive than some of the other choices out there, coming in at right around that $700 mark. I do think you're getting a lot of features. I do think you're getting a unique look. So if you have the budget for it, I don't think that is a crazy price. I think it is going to be a pretty fair deal for what you get here. So as I said before, this is a nice easy 1 out of 3 wrenches for the installation. Let me show you how to do it.
Tools used for this installation: 1/4 inch drive, 3/8 inch drive, a 3/8 universal, various extensions. I used a 3/8 inch drive, 6mm Allen key socket, as well as a Phillips head socket. This is a 7mm socket, 8mm, 13mm, 18mm socket. This is a 6mm Allen key, Phillips head, push pin removal tool, small flathead, side cutters, a 17mm wrench, optional as an impact. All right, to first start off, we're going to be removing 2 push pins from the top, securing this trim. So I have a push pin removal tool. If you don't have one, just use a flathead screwdriver. We're not going to be reusing these push pins, so if you break them, that's fine. Our next step is to get the Jeep up in the air. There are 8 push pins underneath that we have to get to next, so let's do that now. All right, now that we're underneath the Jeep, there are 8 push pins. They are the bigger type. They are a little bit more robust, and they take a little bit more of a beating. So we're just gonna pry these out of here. And then there are 2 8mm screws on the bottom here. We're gonna leave those so this doesn't fall down in the face. All right, now we're gonna take out these 2 8mm screws. All right, guys, 8mm screw on my impact. I have it at my lowest setting. I'm gonna support this with my other arm. And then we're gonna pull back on this skid plate and remove it. All right, before we remove the bumper, let's disconnect our fog lights here. All right, so our next step in removing our bumper is to remove our 8 nuts holding our bumper on. There are 4 on the outside and then 4 on the inside 4 on each frame rail itself, so 8 in total. I have an 18mm socket on a universal swivel on my impact, and I'm going to break free these nuts. Grab that nut and just put it off to the side. We are going to be reusing them. Now we're going to move on to the inside of the frame rail. And I'm going to remove all 4 on this side, but I am going to leave 1 on the other side so we can get the Jeep back down on the ground and safely remove this bumper. All right, now we're on the inside of the driver's side frame rail. We're gonna do the same thing and remove those 2 18mm nuts. All right, now I'm gonna get my last 2 nuts off. Again, I'm gonna leave 1 with just a couple threads left so the bumper does not fall off. And now we're gonna get the Jeep back down on the ground and get this bumper off, because there's a few things we gotta take out of there, like the fog lights, the fog light wiring harness, and the tow hooks, because the tow hooks are actually gonna be utilized for our mounting points. All right, let's get this bumper off. Again, you're just gonna have that 1 nut on there, so let's take that off and put that on top of the tire. And then when taking this bumper off, you wanna make sure again that your fog lights are disconnected, your top trim piece and your bottom trim piece are off. So we're just gonna pull straight back on the bumper now. And we're gonna take this to the bench because there are a lot of parts we gotta take out of here. All right, to start off, we're gonna be removing a couple of these trim pieces, this top one in particular, and these 2 sides to expose our fog lights. Then we need to take off the support here in the middle to get to access to our fog light harness. So let's pop off these push pins. Now let's go onto the side over here and get these push pins out of the way. And as you'll see when I pop off this cover, the fog light is right behind there. Let's take off this other cover now. Now we're going to disconnect our fog lights. Get our 7mm socket here and get these out of here. Then we're going to set these off in a nice clean place so that they're not going to get scratched up. All right guys, now I have a 13mm socket on my impact. We're gonna be taking off the 8 13mm nuts, holding this metal brace into our bumper. All right. Now we're gonna pull this out of here. All right, now we have to get our tow hooks out. The one thing we have to do is remove these little metal washers at the bottom. And what I've found is if you start a little bit like on that edge that I have, you can break them off, and that's the best way to do it. You can also take a pair of side cutters, get underneath it, and try to trim that piece right here, and it should cut it and allow us to take this off. All right, let's get this last one off here. Again, I'm just gonna put my screwdriver in the bottom of it and try to break this metal tab right here. Just like that. Now we can pull out the backing of our bumper support here. This will allow us to remove our tow hooks, which we will be reusing on our new bumper. Then after that, we got to get our 7mm back on our impact and take off this plastic housing, because that underneath that is where our wiring harness is at. So let's do that now. All right, we're going to start at the top here and then work our way to the bottom. And now we're going to go from underneath. All right guys, cool. With all those 7mm bolts out of the way, I'm gonna tuck my wiring harness back through that opening. I'm gonna do that on both sides, because we're gonna pull this plastic backing off to expose the rest of our harness. All right, so with our wires tucked in there, we are going to take the plastic and flip it over to expose our wiring harness right on the top there. All right guys, now we're gonna use our push pin removal tool and remove these Christmas tree clips that are holding our wiring harness in. Just gently pry up. All right. Now we're gonna take this wiring harness, put it to the side, and bring our new bumper onto the table. We can put this off to the side as well. All right, so now that we have our new bumper on the table, our fog lights, our wiring harness, and our tow hooks, we're gonna start by putting our fog lights in the housings themselves. Now, Rugged Ridge does include new hardware for this, so we can thread these plastic little studs here. So I have on my impact set at the very low speed, a Phillips head impact socket. Let's get this mounted up. All right, let's get the other side in. Now, if you don't have a Sahara or a Rubicon with the updated lighting that we have, you will need to buy or modify the mounting points if you have a Sport or just a regular Wrangler with fog lights. All right, we can also throw our wiring harness in there and just loosely wire this up. Now, this is a winch bumper. We're not installing a winch on it, but you do have the option to do that. And the driver's side just gets that one. Now we'll clean up this wiring, make it a little bit neater, and tighten everything back up. Probably use some tape and tape it along there, and use a zip tie to bunch up the extra wire there. All right, now let's prep the Jeep to get our mounting brackets on there, as well as our tow hooks, and then we can get this bumper on there. All right, now we have to get the front of our Jeep ready to accept our new Rugged Ridge bumper. Now, there are a couple of brackets we got to put on there first in this orientation here. So this is like a little, I guess you'd call it a little bumper stop. This actually butts up against that spring you may have saw on the inside of that bumper. So it's going to look like that. The best way I can describe it is these mounting points on the top are angled inward. So we're going to put that there. We're going to bring our tow hook in to help keep what we got here, like this. We're going to put it on, start our nuts on the inside and outside. And the instructions that are included with the product say to install this loosely. So we're not going to install it all the way on, just to about there. So we're going to do this on both sides. And then we'll be able to bring our bumper onto these hooks and these mounting points. Again, I'm just making these a little tight, not our final tight though. I just don't want them to move too much. All right guys, with our brackets in place, now we can bring in our bumper. So we're gonna go slide it right over top of our tow hooks, get those in. And then our key here is we need to get the brackets on the bottom. Looks like that one already is. We need to get the bracket right here on the bottom to go underneath. Just like that. Now we need to get some of our supplied hardware and start bolting down the tops and then go down to the bottom, bolt down the bottom. All right, so what I'm doing now is just making sure my bumper is lined up. And these are threaded, so you don't have to worry about putting a wrench on the backside. It's really nice, so all I have to do is just start that bolt. Make sure your bumper is nice and center. I'm gonna start one on this side and then go ahead and go on the other side and get another one started. Make sure that one's threaded on there. Nice. And let's get the rest of the bolts in. All right guys, now this bumper comes with two different looks. This kind of stubby look, or you can bring in the wings here and give yourself a full width bumper. We are going to do the full width option here. Now we're gonna tighten down the top, then go underneath and tighten the bottom down. All right guys, now we're gonna put some bolts in the bottom of the bumper. We're gonna start over on the wings. All right, now we're gonna go on the inside here. All right, now let's get the bracket into the lower bumper. All right guys, I'm going to be using a small screwdriver to help me position these threads where I need them to go. I'm going to tighten that up there. All right, now we're gonna tighten down those factory nuts that support the bumper. We're gonna be doing this for all 8 nuts. All right, now we're gonna reconnect our factory fog lights. Get the vehicle back down on the ground and we'll show you what it looks like. All right guys, that's gonna wrap up my install of this Rugged Ridge Spartacus front bumper. And for all things Jeep, keep it here at ExtremeTerrain.com.